Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. We hope you still are staying at home and keeping safe. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. This is our last installment for Africa Month. This week, our Twitter poll is asking you if you like one-day data plans, as MTN has announced that they have a gig for 29 Rand, but it will only last you a day. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Here's what's coming up tonight. We look at whether children are safe as they are spending a lot of time online. We review the ASA Predator Helios 500. Our discussion about the digital divide that's in the education sector is with educational books author Mfundo Tsanibe. Tusang Sechaba is an app that does just that. They find out where the need is with COVID-19 and deploy services and needs there.
So first is the human element. Secondly, then we are supporting these human beings with the app. The reason why the app is called Tusas Chap, which in English means help the nation. So the reason why we decided to do the app is because we already had 15 areas of advocacy, which are top down. But we wanted to assess the needs of households and also gather data like of the households that we are dealing with. Now, the app helps us with ensuring that we get on-time data, and it's actually immediately shared with the National Nerve Center, and action is taken in quick response. We're working on 5 areas, basically. It's a response which we call community measures to COVID-19. The response includes public awareness, where we're creating awareness. First, when we started, we were just creating awareness about the lockdown regulation and simplifying them for our communities. But now we are actually doing all the public awareness, including the issues of alert levels. National alert levels are quite confusing, so we simplify them and communicate them with our communities as part of our public awareness.
COVID-19 works with agents. We call them feet on the ground, right? People will go to their neighbors, they will go to their neighborhood and do a household requirement to check how many people have lost their jobs, how many people have encountered some kind of violence, how many people. So there's various things that we check. And at the bottom, we ask, what type of assistance would you like to get, right? And depending on those that you've requested and depending on the answers that you've given, then there's a notification that comes on our dashboard to say there's actually a need at a certain household, and we are the agents around that area to go help that household, essentially.
We will improve efficiencies as time goes on, but in Gauteng, we can actually respond quicker because of, obviously, a lot of companies are headquartered here, government is headquartered here, even ourselves as civil society are headquartered here.
We cannot give access to just anyone, right? So essentially, we've got, our data is in a zone. There's a thing called a zone that we've zoned our data, and people that have access to that is very limited people, right? So, and any person that logs in on the dashboard, there's an audit trail. How long did you log in? What username was used, and so on and so on. So there is some security measures that we took in making sure that data is protected, and then the person that accesses the data also can be tracked and data can be found out.
Now, the ASA Predator Helios 500 is a gaming laptop. It is really, really fast when people are gaming across borders or in 2 different spaces. But we gave it to video editor and cameraman Zamogwa Kengobo. He normally deals with a lot of video information and therefore needs a machine that's as fast.
First, I'm not a gamer, I'm a video editor. I prefer to work with a machine that can process the data in the quickest manner. And this computer, it's very good and it's perfect. What I like about the Predator, you know, when you're working with a laptop, sometimes when they design laptop, it's got less ports. This one, it's got a lot of ports. You can attach a lot of hard drive, as many as you like, you know. So that assists you to split your work in a short space of time. Some of the laptop, they've got less ventilators, but this one, the way they designed it, it's got a lot of ventilators. It cools the machine. That in that manner, it prolongs the working process of video editing. So it's easy for me to work 24 hours because it cools itself. You know, this laptop, I don't recommend it for daily user, office users, because it's a gaming computer. It's quite big and it's very heavy, you know, so even the charger itself, it's big. So for you to carry it on our daily basis, it's gonna give you a problem, because when you work in the office, you need something that is very light that you can travel with, and people, they won't notice that you're carrying something to work. So this one, it is designed for gamers. It's not good for people who are using day-to-day traveling with it, because it's very sophisticated. I've searched this computer through internet. It is 30,000 rand to 50,000. So it's very expensive. Upcoming gamers from the township don't afford this, and it means now they're out of the game. You know, they need something that it can accommodate them, they can have fun, and they can compete with other gamers around the world.
While grade 8s and 12s will be the first to return to school, students in other grades will continue staying at home. But as children stay at home, they spend a lot more time online. How safe are they? Here's producer Lebo Mokomela.
From online learning to entertainment content, the digital world has been a place where children spend most of their time since the lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. A recent Child Online Safety Index report by the DQ Institute indicates that in 30 countries, 60% of children have experienced at least one cyber risk, ranging from cyberbullying, gaming disorder to online sexual behavior. Of those, South Africa ranked 13th with an overall child online safety score of 45.1. This is classified as an average performance. Digital law expert Emma Sadlier shared with us her thoughts on this report.
I think one of the biggest things I'm seeing is that children are quite literally being left to their own devices, because parents are trying to work from home, and we've seen sort of the emergence of the iPad as a pacifier even to toddlers. And that's always been a problem to me, is when children are just, not supervised in what they are doing on their screens. The other big issue that I've seen is that kids are getting onto these platforms much younger, because with homeschooling and online remote learning, children have to be on the internet from a very young age. And as I always say, and have said in my talks for years, the internet has no shallow end. Once children are online, they're online, and they're going to come across the dodgy stuff, and they're going to come across the dodgy people.
Parents are indifferent on this issue. While some view their child's increased screen time as worrying, others feel that they have everything under control.
I have a 12-year-old who, since the lockdown, has been spending more time online. She's attending classes, watching TV, playing games, and socializing with her friends. I do worry that she might be catfished, or you open up yourself to being bullied by people you don't even know. She's 12 years old, so she's pretty gullible, but it's mainly my worry.
My son receives his homework through an app called Class Dojo. That's where his teachers upload his homework content. So he knows that I've taught him to say, okay boy, if you want to access your homework, this is where you go to. And then if you want to log on to Reading X, this is what you go to. This is what you're only allowed to do. And I've sat him down and he says, okay, mommy, I understand. So I'm not really concerned at this point in time about the issues around cyberbullying and pinching and all of the other stuff that comes with internet.
Though the World Wide Web carries a great deal of information, it has also become a dangerous place for people, especially the young ones. But with adequate safety awareness and parental guidance to minimize cyber risks, the digital world would not be such a scary place for our children.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. After the break, we chat about the digital divide that is resulting in some students continuing to learn from home, while others have to go back to school early and potentially risking their health.
It's our mandate as SABC News to bring you factual and accurate coverage amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And from the Northern Cape, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest. Remember to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Alternatively, use alcohol-based sanitizer and don't touch your face. The SABC is your reliable source for independent and impartial coverage. Make sure you use all SABC platforms and follow our reporters locally and abroad for all the news that matters.
Grades 7 and 12 are expected to return to classrooms next week, Monday.
We're currently expecting 137 learners. We've split that into 6 classes, which would carry 20 learners per class.
The scientists told us that there is a virus called COVID. It's the same scientists that say children can go back to school.
Investors were said to be looking forward to better economic performances as economies around the world resumed activity. Data that's coming out globally is compellingly bad, but equities are broadly on the rise.
Bad news here, maybe it's not so bad if it's not as bad as we expect it to be.
The oil price continues to take a bit of a hammering. Do you expect more of these ramifications, and particularly for us in Africa?
We've already seen it, the wipeout in Nigeria. There's even a little bit more instability than you used to. And these tend to be amplified if you are a developing economy.
It is the SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Welcome back. Now, COVID-19 lockdowns revealed South Africa's digital divide. Now, the digital divide might even widen inequalities in what is often said to be the most unequal society in the world. This digital divide is mostly visible with school children. Now, kids from former Model C schools and private schools are able to learn from home as they mostly have the right digital tools to do so.
Homeschooling isn't easy. It wasn't easy, rather. It is now getting better and better with time, but initially when we started, it wasn't easy. My challenge was that I had to learn my kids and how they behave and their characteristics before I could give them the information that they needed. So for us, using digital resources is not a problem. We're used to them. We were using them before the kids got out of the traditional schools. It's just that now we're using them as the main form of information. So for us, using digital information is as easy as it comes. It's an online curriculum. This is where the kids write their exams at the end of each year and get their reports. And then we also have other resources available online like Khan Academy and Scratch. That's where they do their coding and additional mathematics and other subjects that we need to re-emphasize and then reinforce. As far as department support goes, I have not received any. The last time they visited was when I registered the kids for the first time.
To now chat to me about this widening digital divide, especially for school kids, is Educational Books author Mfundo Dzanibe. Mfundo Dzanibe, thank you very much for being a part of our network. Maybe if you can start by telling us if you think we'll ever reach a point where this digital gap and inequalities are getting smaller.
Well, that's wishful. It's very difficult to think of a time where there is no inequality across many spaces, because there is a problem of people having to acquire certain resources in order for them to be able to use the technology and so on. So it's going to be very difficult. Why is it difficult? Because it starts with the resources, and if we don't have resources, it means those who have resources will always advance faster, and catching up is going to be very difficult. But a concerted effort to make sure that people catch up will always help.
Well, government is deploying some tech tools to schools. Is that not enough here?
Well, it is an effort, but government cannot do it alone. I would like to argue that the private sector itself should be sort of trying to make sure that all communities are exposed to the technology, not only as users, but also as producers of the technologies that we are using. Now, if we have to wait for government to be the only ones that are doing that, then we are really going to take a very, very long time compared to if it was an effort across the board. We're talking now in schools of coding that is going to start as a curriculum, but that will take a long time. And if we're talking about catching up, the people who are already ahead will be advancing and will be moving to even better technologies as time goes.
We hear some parents in urban settings saying they will not be sending their kids back to school, and some will actually be registering for homeschooling. But rural kids don't have that privilege, as they largely don't have these tools. Should we just accept that the gap is there and that's what should happen, and kids should go back to school early?
Well, we can't accept. If we have to accept, we will of course be accepting defeat. The fact that rural schools do not have exposure to technologies like urban schools is a big problem, but we have seen the department opening schools with laboratories that are state-of-the-art. Maybe the government should start rolling this faster. I imagined when we started to talk about issues of kids staying at home, that government will be thinking along procuring digital technologies that can be even used in rural areas, fast-tracking the accessibility of networks in the rural areas. So I don't hear much being said now, but I would have appreciated that became part of the solution than just going back to school, because remember, technology is a layer on top of the classroom. It is not the classroom itself. So it will always have an influence. And therefore, kids in rural areas would benefit even if they are back at school. And we would like to see government thinking along, having tablets to these kids, having data accessibility, having network accessibility, because we still have issues of network accessibility in most of the rural areas.
So when these tools get deployed, are teachers in the rural areas trained on how to use them to supplement what they do? As we do know that the digital tool is not a replacement of the teacher.
I can't say they're trained now, but digital technologies are not as complex as the other forms of technologies that we've seen before. The fact that teachers can use smartphones, I can guarantee that it will not take much for them to be able to use whatever technologies that are brought for schooling. But what is important, of course, is to train them to value the use of the technology itself. We have to train them to appreciate how it augments whatever that they are doing in the classroom. And that is the part that I think they need to be trained to appreciate how they can use these technologies to enhance the teaching and the learning process. But in terms of using the technology itself, I don't think they will have a problem because they are already using computers, they are already using smartphones, and most of this technology will be layered on these smartphones as well as laptop computers.
Lockdowns will eventually end. Now, beyond the lockdown, what should be happening with closing the gap and pretty much bridging the digital divide?
Well, I'm imagining a future where every learner would have a tablet. We already have provinces that have made headways in that way, like Gauteng. We would like to see a lot of learners, in fact, all of learners, having tablets, because government is already buying books, which are quite expensive. They are printed each year. They need to be printed. These books, we can have e-books in the tablets, and there'll be no need to keep buying books. Instead, you can always download books. Also, learners could be exposed to various books than just one book. So if in the future we can focus on that and totally shift in the idea that we will have a book to every learner, but instead have a tablet to every learner. And once we have those, the advantage is that we can always layer things like videos on top of the books. We can layer communication tools that the learner can use even if they are at home. So government has to think beyond the books. We have to really start to say the book as it is being phased out, and then we are going for something like a tablet and e-learning as a full force.
You use Gauteng as an example, but if you look at Gauteng, a lot of these tech tools in some schools have been stolen in the past, and sometimes they would turn up in shops in central Johannesburg. Are they safe, and should that not be a worry?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the issue of criminality is not an easy one to eliminate, but we're also not going to stop and not live because of criminality. We have to start to think creatively around that. One of the things that I've just heard is the Eastern Cape, which is rolling out e-learning during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what they have said is that these devices will be locked to such that even if you steal it, you cannot use it. I know that there are people who are really advanced in the criminal world in terms of unlocking such devices, but I think we can start to go to be ahead and make sure that these devices are not usable, and there is a way of identifying them once they have been stolen. And if we can do that, and I think that a lot of people that are in the space will be able to do something about it, it will really help us a big deal.
Fundo Tsanibe, thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you.
From grade 1 up until grade 4, I was bullied about my dark skin complexion. That made me to hate myself. I have learned a lot from SABC. I have learned to respect yourself and respect other people and love yourself. One of the shows that have inspired me is Skim Sam. It shows that no matter challenge that you're going through in life, you can make it. My name is Njabula Zulu and I'm 13 years old. I am a motivational speaker, a violin player, and anti-bullying activist.
The National Union of Mine Workers has called for the temporary closure of mines that record high numbers of COVID-19 positive cases.
This amid a surge of COVID-19 cases at mines.
We are visiting a number of mines just to check on the level of compliance and see as to what is it that we can assist them with.
We demand that the DMRE must regulate and gazette a minimum standard for the companies to comply with, because it is not quite safe to leave in the hands of the mines to develop their own code of practice.
When the mines were allowed to operate at 50%, we are against that because we could see, and our members were saying that the mines were not ready.
It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the technology space.
The French government's contact tracing app project was approved by the lower house of parliament last Wednesday, paving the way for a weekend launch of a tool developed independently of the more widely used Apple-Google platform.
Pour l'adoption 338, contre 215. L'Assemblée a approuvé la déclaration du gouvernement relative aux innovations numériques dans la lutte contre l'épidémie de Covid-19.
The plan for the so-called Stop COVID app in France initially led to a stand-up with Apple. Apple had refused French officials' request to change the settings to let their app access Bluetooth in the background so it is always switched on. And now in the USA. The North American President Donald Trump on Wednesday threatened to regulate or shut down social media companies one day after Twitter Inc. for the first time added a warning to some of his tweets, prompting readers to fact-check the president's claims. Trump, without offering any evidence, reiterated his accusations of political bias by such technology platforms. Tweeting, Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservatives' voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. And now in South Korea. The new barista at the country's cafe in Daejeon is courteous and swift as it seamlessly makes its way towards customers, but it is not human.
주문에서부터 배송까지의 모든 과정이 무인으로 이루어지기 때문에 비대면에도 잘 부합될 수 있고, 그다음에 실제 서빙 로봇이 그 동작을 하기 위해서는 테이블 간 간격이 어느 정도 확보가 돼야 됩니다. 그러한 내용들은 또 이 거리두기에 잘 부합되어 있는 그런 시스템이라고 말씀드릴 수 있을 것 같습니다.
The system, which uses a coffee-making robotic arm and a serving robot, can make 60 different types of coffee and serves the drinks to customers at their seats. It can also communicate and transmit data to other devices and contains self-driving technology to calculate the best routes around the cafe.
This week, Twitter poll is asking you what you think about data that lasts only a day because of that particular plan. This as MTN has said that they can give you a gig for 29 Rand, but it will only last a day. Now, 7% of you say you like these plans. There's 85% of you that's in the majority. You say you don't like these plans at all. And 8% of you say you don't really have a view on this. And that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From me, Siphumelele Zondi, Ukakashu Mancinza, Uluka. Thank you very much for being a part of our network. Stay home and stay safe.